Twister Talk is now part of WeatherWire. WeatherWire is your home for all weather podcasts, and Twister Talk is proud to be part of something new that gathers different weather podcasts at your keyboard. Go to the website and search Twister Talk and join the fun. Check out weatherwire.tv for all things weather in one place. Twister Talk with Gary, Sue, and Brandon. And we're on.
Guys, that's it. Right there. There's a tornado. We are just north of Union City, south of El Reno, south of I-40. Cops have blocked off 81 at this point.
Gary, we're in Newcastle right now, and north of us, the thing is still on the ground. There's lots of debris in the air right now. Lots.
You need to be below ground shelter.
I hate Oklahoma.
You need to be below ground shelter.
The immortal words of the late Gary England.
That's right. And when he said get in shelter, you better get in shelter.
Yes.
And by the way,
it wasn't like that was Zippo the Clown.
No.
It was Gary England.
If you heard that for the first time, that's Mike Bettis from the Weather Channel at the El Reno tornado.
Oh, okay.
That's what
I was wondering. Yeah, because that was a
bad one.
A new intro for us.
Yeah, it was really bad. Yeah. It's Twister Talk. I'm Gary.
I'm Sue.
I'm Brandon.
And we're back again. Glad to have you join us. And like you heard in the beginning, a little spot there for our famous voice person, Ruthie. We're now on weatherwire.tv. That's right. We've been invited by the people who put that together to be one of the premier podcasts on that. So go to weatherwire.tv and you can check out the other podcasts.
I presume they'll be adding new ones, too.
They're going to be adding new ones, and we're glad to be on the ground floor with them, and we're hoping that good things will come from our association with them. We're looking forward to that, and spreading our weather myrrh and weather geekiness all over the planet.
Yeah.
And maybe the aliens in Alpha Centauri will hear us also. Maybe not.
That might not be a good thing.
Yeah, that's true. They're going, we've been looking for them guys. So anyway, we're back again, and today we've kind of a history. We're going to go back and talk about a storm in the 1990s that really maybe one of the craziest winter events that I can honestly remember in my life.
Definitely.
It ranks up to the blizzard of 78.
It was.
It really does. And that is the infamous no-name storm of 1993.
Or at least that's what they call it in St. Pete.
That's right. And we're going to talk about that because that was a storm that basically coated the eastern half of the United States with just about everything you could think of.
And right up into Canada as well.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And really as far south as Cuba.
It is crazy. So we're going to be talking about that today. So I'm just going to hand it over, and guys, let's just ramp it up and see what we got.
That's right. The no-name storm, as they called it, struck the Gulf Coast of Florida on 12 March 1993, and it actually struck overnight, which was not a great thing. People who live in Florida, they still think that this was an unnamed hurricane. It's like, no, this was March. We don't have hurricanes in March. In fact, it was a large system, a huge storm system that reached way up into the United States, north into Canada. In places north, it was often referred to as the blizzard of the century. And one reason I think why we don't think about it very much here in Columbus is actually the worst of it was just east of us.
That's right.
We didn't have a whole lot of bad weather out of it, as I recall.
But we had to cancel Aaron's birthday party, though.
Oh, really?
We were going to have a birthay party for him, and they were saying, we're going to get 8 to 12 inches of snow.
Oh, boy.
So we called everybody and said, hey, don't come out, and we got like 3 to 4 inches. But if you got Zanesville to the east toward the Pennsylvania state line, it was really bad. 20 plus inches in places.
Yeah, this cyclonic storm formed in the Gulf of Mexico on the March 12th, and after a career of maniac destruction, dissipated out over the Atlantic on March 15th. So it didn't last very long, but it was very powerful. The total death toll from this storm is really kind of not totally determined, because it varies on what source you look at, was at least 318, which includes deaths from tornadoes, storm surge, wind damage, cold, and 33 lives lost on an ore carrier that was sunk in the North Atlantic. In the southern U.S., especially in Florida, the storm produced high winds, storm surges up to 12 feet, and a tornado outbreak. Meanwhile, even as far south as Georgia and Florida, in the Florida Panhandle, snow and howling winds were the major issue. Mount Lacott, Tennessee, measured 56 inches of snowfall from this storm, and Mount Mount Mitchell, North Carolina, 50 inches. Birmingham, Alabama, 13 inches of snow. This storm produced record snow, record sleet, record low temperatures, record low barometric pressures, record wind gusts. What happened? And why are they still blithering about the no-name storm in Florida?
So there you go. That's the intro. And now, Brandon, you're going to give us the what happened, how the storm got its act together, what vitamins it took to get so strong, and where it went. So it's yours, man.
All right. So they're talking about storm formation here. Basically, there are some schools of thought here that attribute the severity of this particular storm to a mild volcanic winter that was brought on by the massive eruption of Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines in 1991. It should be noted, however, that connection remains theoretical. As of this date so far, there's been nothing really confirmed or proven or disproven about that. On March 11th and 12th, an Arctic high-pressure system was building over the Great Plains, and at the same time, an extratropical low was forming over Mexico along an east-west stationary front. Tropical moisture being funneled off the southeast coast of Texas caused an initial eruption of thunderstorm activity, which enabled intensification. By 6 p.m. Central on March 13th, the central pressure of the system had dropped to 29.26 inches. Meantime, a powerful low-level jet over eastern Cuba and the Gulf of Mexico enhanced a cold front that extended from the center of the low southward, while the subtropical jet stream was displaced unusually far south, reaching into the Pacific over Central America while extending toward Honduras and Jamaica. In the meantime, intense ageostrophic flow was noted over the southern U.S., with winds flowing perpendicular to the isobars over Louisiana. As the area of low pressure moved through the central Gulf of Mexico, a shortwave trough in the northern branch of the jet stream fused with the system in the southern stream, further strengthening the surface low. Also, a squall line formed along the cold front, which moved rapidly over the eastern Gulf through Florida and Cuba. The center of the system moved ashore into northwestern Florida early on the morning of March 13th.
You know, the storm was actually forecasted, though, 5 days in advance. They knew this was going to happen, and this is actually a saving grace of this storm. It could have been much worse. They saw that things coming together. By March 8th, several models and forecasters of the National Weather Service recognized that a serious winter system was in the offing. Blizzard warnings were issued 2 days in advance. By the last day, the arrival confidence of the storm was so high that several northern states issued a state of emergency before the storm even arrived.
Yeah, that doesn't happen very often.
No, it doesn't. And they did yeoman's work on this. They really knew it was coming, what was going to happen. Basically, being unfamiliar with winter storms of this kind of magnitude, Florida was used to hurricanes, but again, this is March. The storm surge hit the western coast of Florida at late night, early morning with people sleeping again. Associated storm surges with hurricanes, but not winter storms. So most people felt there was nothing coming their way about that.
Yeah, they didn't expect this.
So the storm surge from the no-name storm actually drowned more people than the storm surges from Andrew and Hugo combined. Let me read that again. More people drowned from the no-name storm than either from Andrew or Hugo combined. Basically, this is because people in Florida took hurricane warnings seriously and acted to protect themselves. One source suggested a lack of a name promoted a public so what factor.
Yeah, which I find kind of interesting.
That's probably true.
On the other hand, when people are used to responding to hurricanes, I can kind of understand it.
Right. And they felt, well, this is just a storm coming ashore. No one knows, no big deal. Go to bed in the morning. Maybe some flooding, rain, lightning, thunder would take that. And, of course, it was a lot worse. So, Sue, the storm makes landfall, just like a hurricane, when the storm comes ashore. And the fun is just starting.
Oh, it's just starting. 26 states were afflicted with power outages, blizzard conditions, thunder snow, and the worst interruption in air traffic prior to 9/11. I think a lot of people have forgotten this storm. Yeah. Every airport from Halifax to Tampa was closed at some time during this event. The airport in Asheville, North Carolina, was closed for 3 days.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. The snow totals, I'll just read a couple of these off to kind of give you a swath of them. 56 inches in Mount Lacott, Tennessee, which was the highest total reported. 44 inches in the aptly named Snowshoe, West Virginia. 43 inches in Syracuse, New York. 36 in Portsmouth, Ohio. 35 inches in Lincoln, New Hampshire. 35 inches also in Blairsville, Georgia. 33 inches in Boone, North Carolina. 30 inches in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. 25 and a half inches in Pittsburgh. 23 inches in Chattanooga. 20 inches in Worcester, Massachusetts. 17.7 in Ottawa, Ontario. 16.1 inches in Montreal. 12.3 inches at New York City's LaGuardia Airport, 10 inches in the northern suburbs of Atlanta, but only 4.5 inches at Hartsfield, which is the airport there, 6 inches in Tallahassee, 3 inches in Mobile, Alabama. Now, this gives you kind of an idea of the scope of this thing. A lot of colorful details. Motorists who became stranded at Deep Gap, North Carolina, broke into a local elementary school to find shelter and food. Also, North Carolina, National Guard helicopters were brought in to drop fodder to livestock who were trapped by snowdrifts. In Virginia, there was a rare sports-related weather disaster. The Lancerlot Sports Arena in Vinton was destroyed by the weight of snow, and the Lancerlot minor league hockey team proceeded to pack up and move to Roanoke. Also hockey related, a game between the Flyers and the LA Kings was postponed when a large window in the arena was blown out just before the end of the first period. A Lowe's store collapsed in Christiansburg, Virginia, and thousands of motorists were stranded along interstates in the southwestern part of Virginia. So it was quite a the winter storm part of this was just a mess.
It was really incredible because it covered such a huge area. And normally, even the more intense snowstorms, you don't cover thousands and thousands of square miles. This did. This was what they call, unfortunately, this was the perfect winter storm. It really was. But, Brandon, we go back to talking about the severe weather part of it. And, of course, like I said, Florida wasn't expecting what happened. But, again, significant flooding happened there. So if you could give us a rundown on what you see and what you're reporting on that.
All right. So, yes, we're going to continue discussing the damage here. And now we're going to cover the storm surge, because severe storm surge occurred all along the west coast of Florida and the Florida Panhandle, with the highest values being recorded in the Armpit region and Appalachia Bay. Storm surge totals include, starting with the Panhandle and moving east and then south, some of the following totals. 4.6 feet at Spring Creek, 11.8 feet at Deldy Beach, which is in Appalachia Bay, 11.4 feet at Keaton Beach, also in the same bay. We have 11.1 feet at Steinhatchee, which is west of Gainesville, 9.5 feet at Cedar Key, 5.8 feet at the Wyasisa River Gauge, 12 feet at Pine Island, 9 feet at Aripeka and Hudson, 6.5 feet at Tarpon Springs, which is in the Tampa area, 7 feet at Indian Shore, that's around St. Pete, and 6 feet at Apollo Beach, which is just south of Tampa and St. Pete.
So in addition to this storm surge, Florida also had a tornado outbreak, which actually was for a March outbreak, it was pretty severe. Gary?
Yeah, tornadoes and very high straight-line winds were produced by that powerful squall line that we talked about earlier, sweeping across the Gulf of Mexico. Well, guess what? It came ashore in central Florida. A total of 11 tornadoes confirmed by the National Weather Service offices in that area. Still sad because, again, these storms hit after midnight, if I remember, and so you were definitely surprised when it smacked you. So, thanks, guys. Let's talk about the tornado outbreak. You got to remember this tornado outbreak occurred between about midnight and about 4 a.m. in Florida. And although Floridians were, knowing severe weather was coming, again, they're not thinking about a hurricane-type situation or, a really super squall line coming through because it's winter. Storms happen in Florida in the winter. Thunderstorms are very possible. They are year-round. But they did not know that this squall line had a powerful punch to it, including very high straight-line winds were produced by that squall line that swept across central Florida between midnight and about 4 in the morning, with a total of 11 tornadoes confirmed by different weather service offices. These are the order in which they occurred. The first one was an F2 tornado that struck at Chiefland. That's near Gainesville, Florida. The width was 80 yards, the path length of about a mile. However, this tornado went through a mobile home park, downing power lines and destroying mobile homes, with 3 deaths and 7 people injured in that tornado. That was the deadliest tornado of the outbreak. There were more damage, unfortunately. An F1 tornado struck Crystal River, a town in Citrus County, Florida, damaging 15 homes. Now, width was 30 yards, the path a half a mile. 3 people were injured. An F0 that started as a waterspout came ashore in Treasure Island. That's a beach community in the Tampa-St. Pete metro area, de-roofing 1 home, damaging others, and scattering a number of boats. Width was 10 yards, the path length about 1/10 of a mile. No injuries reported from this tornado/waterspout. An F0 at Port Richey, a city in the Tampa Bay-St. Petersburg metro area, damaged a number of homes and injured 11 people. Path width again, about only 10 yards, on the ground for about 1/10 of a mile. An F2 formed southwest of Ocala, which is a city in north central Florida. This destructive tornado did considerable damage to homes and businesses and destroyed 1 hangar and damaged 2 others at the airport. This was a substantial tornado that was on the ground for 15 miles and a maximum path width of 100 yards. An F1 struck La Crosse, which is near Gainesville, Florida. It was on the ground for 0.8 of a mile. The path width was about 60 yards. Now, trees and power lines were down, and several houses were damaged and 1 destroyed from a propane tank explosion. 1 person was killed and 4 others injured. That person that was killed because their house that was in was destroyed by the propane tank explosion. That's where they died, and that's where the injuries occurred. An F2 tornado struck Howie in the Hills, which is in the Orlando metro area. It subsequently moved into Mount Dora, destroying 13 homes, seriously damaging 80 others, and causing minor damage to almost another 300 homes, leaving a 5-month-old baby dead and 2 other people injured. This was another substantial tornado that was on the ground for 30 miles and a path width of 200 yards. An F0 waterspout struck the Davis Islands Marina in Tampa, throwing a 23-foot sailboat 300 feet and damaging several other boats. This storm was on the ground for only 1/10 of a mile, another path width 10 yards. An F1 near Jacksonville destroyed 4 houses and damaged 16 others. The storm was on the ground for less than a mile, and the path was 50 yards. An F0 near Bartow, which is near Lakeland and Winter Haven, Florida, caused minor damage to trees and doors. This storm was on the ground for about 1/10 of a mile and had a path width of 10 yards. It's interesting, the trees were messed up. I guess the doors were damaged when the tornado knocked one in and wouldn't let them in, so that's all I can think. By this time, the people of Florida were ready for an unpleasant outbreak to be over. A second tornado rated F0 visited Jacksonville and crossed over the airport, damaging trees, jetways, service vehicles, and pushing a 737 jet 40 feet. Again, the path length was about 1/10 of a mile and the width about 10 yards. That was the tornado outbreak. 11 tornadoes between midnight and 4 a.m. in Florida. Unfortunately, there were lives lost and lots of damage. Thankfully, the tornadoes and the thunderstorms waned in strength as they moved over land, but the rest of the country was about to get hit really hard with snows and blizzards. This is what happened. Of course, the storm was just starting and it ramped up. But Sue, you've got more in other places and other damage you have in a lot of areas.
Yeah. 2 other noteworthy damage incidents. Cuba was also struck by the same squall line with winds that may have been as high as 100 to 130 miles per hour. 10 people died in Cuba, and at least $1 billion in damage was recorded, which for Cuba must have been astonishing. Out in the mid-Atlantic, the cargo ship Gold Bond Conveyor, a 600-foot-long bulk carrier built in 1974 in Japan, en route from Halifax to Tampa carrying a load of gypsum, sank 60 miles off Sable Island, Nova Scotia. Winds at the time were 90 miles an hour and waves estimated to be up to 100 feet in height. Having survived the famous perfect storm of 1991, she sank, possibly due to her cargo shifting. Her entire crew of 33 were lost. Only 1 body was ever recovered. Overall, at least 318 fatalities were attributed to the storm, with at least $5.5 billion in damage. Insurance companies have actually made this storm a model to model insurance losses from other events, which is interesting. The state with the highest death toll was actually Pennsylvania with 50. Florida was an unsurprising second with 44. And of course, I looked into this because I kept hearing about it continuously from my parents about the no-name storm, and it's like there was actually quite a lot to this system.
You know, with this weather event like that, and all that went with it, we forgot about the perfect storm just 2 years earlier.
Yeah.
And we'll have to do a show on that down the road
definitely.
about that, because that was a very significant weather event. But yeah, here it is. People weren't expecting this to happen. They were taken off guard. Again, because of the terminology used in Florida, squall line thunderstorms, it's not a hurricane, no big deal. And of course, there was storm surge, some places over 5 feet in height, a lot of damage, people lost their lives because of it. But it's interesting that Pennsylvania had the highest death toll because of the snow and freezing conditions in that area.
Yeah.
Places had incredible amounts of snow, winds were blowing 50, 60 miles an hour in places, making for, whiteouts. And whiteout is very dangerous because literally, if you've ever been in one, you can't see 2 feet ahead of you.
No.
And you can rear end somebody or hit something very quickly without knowing it. And there were several long pileups. Kind of reminds me of the blizzard of '78.
Very similar to it.
Yeah, we had long pileups on Interstate 75, Interstate 70, 71, miles. I mean, accident quarters miles long. And that's what happened with this 1993 storm, especially in Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and even southeast Ohio.
From what I understand is while the 1978 blizzard is kind of like the touchstone for everybody, this one actually was more severe and had a much wider impact.
Yes. Bay from Cuba, Florida, all the way up into Canada. That's the width, that's the damage path of the storm and the path it took. But it was only around for at its peak for about 48 hours.
No, it moved through really quickly.
And then it was gone.
I think one of the fortunate things is it did not lead to a big tornado outbreak in the south.
Right.
And possibly because it was so cold.
Yeah, the saving grace with that was saving grace of frigid weather prevented a major tornado outbreak. And temperatures were well below normal in most part east of the Mississippi for several days. Temperatures fell into the single digits as far south as the Carolinas and Georgia. And, in Ohio and places like that, many places were below zero for a couple of days as the cold air moved in from Canada. This was a very strong cold front. And it had the perfect conditions feeding into low pressure that formed off the coast of Texas. And the rest, sadly, was pretty nasty history. But again, the weather, weather can show up in 48 hours. It can wreak havoc beyond anything you can think or compare of.
Yeah,
it really does happen.
And the thing is, this was forecasted, and I honestly think a lot of people in Florida just didn't pay attention. It wasn't hurricane system, and it wasn't hurricane season, and they were like, okay.
Well, they have storms come across, big deals. March,
Yeah,
we're
it
done.
happens all the time.
But unfortunately, caught them way off guard.
It really did.
That's our look at the no-name storm of 1993. Like I said, if you lived in Columbus that time, which I did, not much happened here. Maybe a little bit of snow, some winds, and everything else. But if you went to Zanesville and moved to the east of Zanesville, 20 inches plus and horrific travel conditions. It's amazing, Sue, sometimes, and Brandon, just a matter of miles can really make a difference between life and death sometimes.
Yeah.
But that's what the weather does. It does play some crazy tricks on us and have to kind of catch up with it and keep it going. I think we've done all the damage we can for this show.
Perhaps. That storm did a lot of damage.
It sure did.
Yes, it did.
And maybe one day we'll do as much. We'll have to see. So, anyway, for Twister Talk, I'm Gary.
I'm Sue.
And I'm Brandon.
And we'll talk to you next time. Take care.